Okay, so my battery is dying, so the last half of this video is going to be me talking at warp speed, so I'm really sorry about that. Hello everybody, my name is Kara, and today I'm here with a collective book haul. So I've been really lazy about keeping up with the books I've been getting, and I basically have a huge stack that's from like 3 or 4 months, I think, at this point, so I'm just gonna do it before it gets out of hand. I will try to run through these pretty quick, so we're not here forever, but who knows. I'm gonna go in roughly chronological order, maybe, we'll see. Let's get into it. First, I have Heart of Iron by Ashley Poston. This is a sci-fi retelling of Anastasia, which sounds really cool. I heard Gabby from Gabs About Books really enjoyed this one, so that makes me excited to read it. And also it's got the fancy purple edges. I got this in a used bookstore, and I guess somebody didn't want their like fancy L-Crate exclusive copy anymore or whatever, but I'm excited about it. Next is The Fairy Godmother by Mercedes Lackey, and this is the first book in the 500 Kingdoms series, I think. I saw Huck from Bad to Reads do a review on this, and it just really sounded intriguing to me. This is about a fairy tale world where the magic system is known as the tradition, and it's more of like an embedded in the world kind of magic system because it forces people's lives to fit fairy tales as soon as their lives start resembling them in any way, and that can get really sinister very quickly, which you will know if you know anything about fairy tales. But I just feel like this is going to be a really interesting magic system and world. Next, I have Fire Study and Magic Study by Maria V. Snyder. These are the second and third books in the Poison Study series, trilogy, whatever it is. I loved the first book, and I've heard extremely mixed things about the continuation of the series, but I do want to read some of Maria V. Snyder's other books that are set in this world, and that I heard you have to read these first, and I don't know, some people really enjoy the whole series, so I'll see what happens, but I finally got a hold of them in the editions that I wanted, which is, I know, a ridiculous problem to have, but I'm excited. I also picked up The Shadow Throne by Jennifer A. Nielsen. This is the third book in the False Prince trilogy. I loved the first book. I actually reread it recently, and I do need to still pick up the second one, but I did really love the first book and how like twisted and mysterious it was. Next, I picked up a copy of The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux, and this is translated by... hold that thought. Actually, I cannot find who translated this edition, which is really weird. But anyway, you might know that I already have a copy of this book, which I love, but when I first read it, I got it from the library, and I didn't think to look at who the translator was, because I had never really read many translated books, so I didn't know how important that was. And I like the other edition I have, but there were a few places where I really didn't like the translation as much as the original one I read, and I checked one of them in this edition, and I believe this is the correct one, so I'm really excited to have this version of it to reread. Next, I have a couple of illustrated kind of mythology or storybooks, and first I have a Goddesses, A World of Myth and Magic, written by Burleigh Mouton, illustrated by Rebecca Gay, and I also have The Book of Goddesses by Chris Walderer, introduction by Linda Scorsese Leonard. And both of these books were some of the most checked out library books when I was little. Like, I loved these. I read them all the time, and I finally decided to buy copies because they're really hard to find now, so I'm so excited to have these to reread. And kind of along that line, I picked up The Orchard Book of Stories from the Ballet, retold by Geraldine McCogran, illustrated by Angela Barrett. I have not read this version, but I have another ballet storybook that I absolutely love. I think that might have been another one that I reread from the library over and over, but I am really excited to get to this. I love ballet stories, like I love the actual tales that they are based on. Next, I have some Barnes & Noble books, and I'm realizing these are not in chronological order at all, but we're gonna keep going. I have 2 books by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I have Dear Ijiyawale, or A Feminist Manifesto and 15 Suggestions, and I also have We Should All Be Feminists. I really love this author as a person, and I just had not read any of her things yet, so I definitely want to try them out, and I'm so excited. I also have The Victoria in My Head and Annalie in Real Life, both by Janelle Milanes, and she is a Cuban-American author who I have heard amazing things about from Jocelyn at Yogi with a Book and Ali at Ali M Books, and I'm just so excited to get into these. I don't know too much about them. I know that this one has like fake dating in it, and I believe Annalie, the main character, is involved with like an online, like an RPG or something like that. And I think Victoria in My Head involves like music in some way. I don't know. I've heard amazing things. I'm so excited to get into these. I also have East by Edith Patel, and this is one of everyone's favorite fairy tale retellings, it seems like, of East of the Sun, West of the Moon. I know Giselle Bradley loves this one, and I just really want to get to it. This seems like a perfect winter read. Not the Girls You're Looking For by Amina May Safi. This is another Own Voices contemporary that I don't know too much about. It's about a girl called Lula Saad, and I think from what I remember, she's very she misbehaves a lot. You know, she gets into trouble. She caused a scene during Ramadan. I feel like this is going to be a really beautiful and funny coming of age story about like friendships and relationships and family. I also picked up Witchwood by Tahara Mafi. This is the companion sequel to Furthermore, which I loved, and I know that this one follows a main character. Is she Persian? I'm not sure, but it follows a main character who I think wraps or takes care of the bodies of the dead. And look at that gorgeous cover. I'm just so excited to get into this. I think Tahara Mafi has a beautiful writing style that is really suited to middle grade fantasy, and I hope she writes it forever. I also have Mistaking Her Character by Maria Grace. This is the first in the Queen of Rosings Park series, and I heard about this from Misty at Book Rat Misty. She has a ton of Jane Austen fanfiction, or JAF as it's called, recommendations for those, and I really haven't read much of that like kind of whole like subgenre, so I'm excited to see this one. It's kind of a retelling of Pride and Prejudice, I think. Next, I have Kindred by Octavia E. Butler. This is a science fiction classic, and I have heard so many people rave and rave about this book. I'm so excited to get to it. And it's about our main character, Dana, I think? Yes. Who gets transported back in time over and over again, and she doesn't know why, except that she keeps being sent back, it seems, to save the life of a white plantation owner. And I've just heard incredible things about the writing and the social commentary in the story, and I just think this is going to be fantastic. Next, I have Kiss of the Royal by Lindsay Duga, and this is another one from Book Rat Misty, another recommendation from her, except her video where she talks about it, it's like, it's not all positive. It's kind of weird that video convinced me to read it, because like she's very upfront about like the flaws or the potential flaws in this book, but it just sounds like it'll be a really quick and engaging and interesting kind of story. I think it's a fantasy world where the magic is literally transmitted through kisses, and it sounds like that could be really problematic, or it sounds like it could be a really interesting commentary on like romance and physical affection and all of that, so we'll see which of those it is. Next, I have Jane Unlimited by Kristen Kishore, and this is a recommendation from Trina at Between Chapters. This is just like the recommendations haul I'm discovering, but I had heard about this, but it wasn't really on my radar, and then I adored the Graceling trilogy by this author, and then Trina, who I really, really trust her opinions, was talking about what a like clever and brilliant and mind-blowing book this was, so I'm excited. It's kind of like a weird multiple kind of stories, like about a girl who goes to this mysterious manor and she experiences like 5 different versions of what could happen, I think. Next, I have Dear Martin by Nick Stone, and this is a very quick book. It's much shorter than I thought it was, and it's about a character who I think witnesses gun violence, and in order to kind of fight back and sort out his feelings about it, he begins writing letters as if he were writing to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and I just think that sounds like a really incredible premise, and I've heard that this book is so powerful and so wonderfully written, and I think it's such an important book today, so I'm really excited to get to it. I also picked up The Girl in the Tower by Catherine Arden. This is the second book in the Bear and the Nightingale, or the Winter Night trilogy. I liked the first book. It wasn't as mind-blowing as I was hoping it would be. I had a couple of really huge problems with it, but hopefully those will go away in the second book based on where the last one ended, so I do think I'm going to like it. I do love the atmosphere and the writing of this book, so it will be a perfect winter read. I also picked up My So-Called Bollywood Life by Nisha Sharma, and this is another one I like didn't read too much about on the summary, but there might be fake dating? Am I making that up? I probably am. But this just sounds like a really fun movie that incorporates Indian culture and Bollywood movies, and I just think it's going to be a great time. Next is Mirage by Somaya Daud. This is it sci-fi or fantasy? I'm not really sure. It might be in between those, and this is another one I had like completely ignored the synopsis and like reviews and anyone talking about this book, because I've heard kind of mixed things, and I want to love this so badly. I don't want anything to negatively affect my opinion going in, so that's why you guys don't get to hear what this one is about. Getting down to the end here, I promise. Next, I have some books that I was able to pick out as part of a giveaway from Literary Gladiators. I love their channel. I will link them down below, of course, and I'm so grateful for them giving me the books in the giveaway. The first is Grace and Fury by Tracy Banghart. This book is set in a fantasy, like alternate history version of Italy, which is a setting that I really, really love. And it's about 2 sisters, one of whom is really rebellious, and one of whom is trained to be kind of the perfect woman, and they end up switching places. The nice one ends up in prison, and I think the bad one has to pretend to be like the proper lady, and I think this is going to have some really powerful commentary on sexism and probably rape culture, and I think it's going to be a really interesting book. I also have The Loneliest Girl in the Universe by Lauren James, and this is a sci-fi like kind of mystery, I think, novel. It's about our main character who's a girl, and she's the only surviving crew member on a spaceship bound for another planet, and I think she only has contact with one other person, and this is boy on another planet, I think, and then all these mysteries start unfolding. I don't want to know too much about this one, but I've heard that it sounds like it's going to be oh, like a boy and a girl fall in love, and it's really not. And the last book that they were kind enough to send me was A Sky Painted Gold by Laura Wood. This sounds like a really beautiful kind of historical fiction, gorgeously written, like atmospheric kind of book. That was just like a string of words that made no sense together, but I'm excited for it. It really reminds me of I Captured the Castle because it's about a girl who might have a sister. I don't know. And like she starts kind of falling for one of the boys who moves in next door, and it's like almost got a Gatsby style feeling too, and look at that gorgeous cover. I'm really excited for this. I got Daughter of the Forest by Juliet Marillier. Again, book at Misty. This is one of her favorite books. She talks about it quite a lot, and I love a lot of what I've read from Juliet Marillier, but I haven't found one that I love as much as Wildwood Dancing, so maybe this one is going to be it. This is a retelling of Silent for 7 Years or like The Six Swans. I don't, that fairy tale is called so many different things, but I'm really excited about this. I also picked up Viper Wine by Hermione Eyre. This is one of my favorite covers of all time. I love this weird mishmash of styles here. And this is another one I don't know too much about, except that it seems like it is also historical fiction, like alternate historical fiction, and potentially a little bit of fantasy. And there's going to be a lot of commentary on the cost of beauty, and I think I might love this, but it feels like it's going to be one of those really weird ones where it's like a favorite book and I cannot explain it to anyone. So this will be fun. I also finally picked up Caraval by Stephanie Garber. This is like a love it or hate it kind of book, and I finally got curious enough to pick it up and see how I feel. I've heard that the carnival setting is really like a misnomer and that you shouldn't go in expecting that, but this is another one I think that is it inspired by Italian settings or fantasy? I don't know, but I'm really interested to see if I love this or hate this because there are very few people who are in between on this one. I also picked up The Wicked Deep by Shay Earnshaw. You probably heard about this. Actually, the beginning sort of reminds me of Hocus Pocus, which is funny because I just saw that movie for the first time like a few days ago. And anyway, it's about these three witches, or three sisters who were drowned for being witches, and then I think every year they come back to this little town in Oregon and they lead a boy or multiple boys to their death, and then it's about our main character who decides that she wants to protect a particular boy from getting taken by them, and this will be really interesting. Funny side story, so I lived in California since I was 2 years old. Like, I've lived most of my life here, and I have family in Oregon, so we would go and visit them in Oregon sometimes. So the city of Salem that I was familiar with was Salem, Oregon. So, in school, when we were talking about the Salem witch trials, I just assumed they meant the Salem that I knew. So, like, Salem, Oregon. And I was, like, I was much older than I should have been when I finally realized that they were talking about Salem, Massachusetts, and not Salem, Oregon. So, but this one is set in Salem, Oregon, so now I'm gonna get confused all over again. I promise I'm not always that bad at geography, but... Next, I have The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty, and all I know about this book is that there is a female thief and a male djinn, and they have to probably go on an adventure or something. I've heard amazing things about this, and I know that the author is also Muslim, so I think there's going to be that representation in this book as well, and I'm just so excited about this. I love these kinds of like slow burn fantasy stories, and it kind of reminds me of The Golem and the Genie by Helene Becker, which is one of my favorite books of all time, so I'm hyped. And the last book I have is The Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker. I mentioned this as one of my most anticipated releases. I'm so excited for it. It's about the women in the Trojan War and how they did what they had to do to survive, basically. I think this is like a feminist retelling of their story. I'm all about that. I'm so ready for that. Let's go. I told you there were a lot of books. Okay, so this is why you should not wait like months and months to do a book haul. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you thought of these if you read them, and I hope you love the next book you read. Bye!